Welcome to the 9th ToKini Andy Kanji lesson. Today we're going to cover the meaning, building blocks, writing, historical evolution where applicable, and a story to memorize each of the following kanji. We'll also learn the parts and radicals needed for those kanji. Today, there are 3 new parts. By the way, stick around to the end of the lesson where we'll be doing a quick quiz to help everything stick. So let's get into it. We're starting off easy today with a pictograph that means field. Field is its own radical, which means it will be showing up in many other kanji, where it'll retain this meaning. We can break it down into the 3 parts, mouth, staff, and one, though it's probably not necessary. There are 5 strokes in field. We draw the first vertical line for our mouth enclosure, followed by the second stroke in that enclosure, going west to east and cutting 90 degrees down to the south. While in China, they follow the rules you'd expect from here by drawing the horizontal line on the inside of the mouth first, in Japan, kids are taught to draw the vertical staff part next, followed by the final 2 horizontal lines. They just had to be different. Historically, this kanji has changed very little, though its official Kobun kanji, or old Japanese character, has a bit of flourish on top, which I have to assume is a pitchfork? Interestingly, the lines are supposed to represent the little roads between fields that you'll often see here in Japan. Our story for this one isn't really a story. It's a pictograph, just like it's supposed to be. It's a field divided into 4 plots. Remember that it's a good idea to pause the video after each story and really try to imagine it, or to create a story of your own that will help you remember the kanji even better. Make sure the story contains the meaning and every single part in some way. Bringing us to our next character, which means strength. The official radical for strength is the extremely common strength. We can break it down into a no part, and let's just call the second stroke its flexing arm. There are 2 strokes in strength, which fortunately are in exactly the order you'd expect. We draw the flexing arm part first, as that is the most important thing to show when you're creating a pictograph of physical strength. Make sure to curl in the hand like this. And then we draw the no part, cutting through the flexing arm, making it look like both arms, the other one posed behind nose back or something. Like this? As silly as this may all sound, my seemingly random choice to suggest thinking of this part as an arm is historically accurate. That's not because I started from history, but because I got really lucky. You can see the arm used for this kanji being combined with the field from before to indicate a meaning of strength needed to work in a field. The field is grayed out because that part was only included when in the next kanji we're going to be covering. At least, that's how I interpret this. Our story will use both of the parts we broke it down into, both no and a flexing arm. This is our friend no, flexing, the image of true strength. Flex your arm and hit the like button. It helps me get stronger. Did you man up and hit the subscribe button after hitting the like button? Or are you already the man and subscribed to this channel? Well, regardless, this kanji means man. Man's official radical is field. Get back in the field, man. We can break man down further into field and strength, which you could probably already see. There are 7 strokes in man, all of which follow the same order as the respective parts. We draw the first vertical line for our mouth enclosure, followed by the second stroke in that enclosure, going west to east and cutting down 90 degrees to the south. We then draw the staff and 2 horizontal lines, closing up the field. Next, we draw the flexing arm in strength, making sure to curl it in a bit, followed by the no part, finishing it off. Make sure to connect the no part to the field. Historically, this appears to have always been the flexing arm indicating strength, combined with a field. In Japan, men have always been the ones to work in the field, I guess. Although, in modern Japan, it's the old grandmas out there doing the work a lot of the time. For our story, we have When asked how he became such a strong man, our flexing no said he owed all of his strength to working in the fields. We made it 3 kanji before having to learn a new part, but alas, here we are. We're going to call this non-radical part the ku part, because it looks exactly like a hiragana ku. It's not a radical or kanji, just a part, so no radical. And its only part is going to be the ku hiragana, though it's sometimes a little more stylized or angled when in actual kanji. Japanese people do refer to this part as ku though, especially when they learn the next kanji we're going to learn. It has one stroke that is written in exactly the same way as the hiragana ku, starting at the top and cutting back to the right from around the middle. For our story, we're going to use a Japanese word, though we'll likely not do this again for quite a while. It was just too perfect to pass up. Ku-man likes to ku. Our version of Pac-Man is called Ku-man because, well, look at his mouth. And ku is a very informal version of the word to eat. So Ku-man likes to eat is another way you could memorize this. Bringing us to the first kanji that uses the ku character and which even Japanese people will recognize ku as being a part of. This one means woman. The official radical for woman is itself woman. This is fair because it's a very common radical in other kanji. We can break it down into ku, no, and one. Japanese people use the mnemonic, or just the names, ku no ichi, to remember this kanji and its stroke order, as ichi means one. And also it rolls off the tongue better than ku no fluorescent worm. There are 3 strokes in woman, which combined with the 7 of man gives us a perfect 10. Don't mind me. We first write the ku as mentioned before, though it's sort of leaning back a little. Next, no cuts through that. Finally, we write the horizontal 1 above both of those, above the cutback in ku and just below the start of no. This kanji looks deceptively simple, but it's actually incredibly difficult to write in a balanced, nice-looking way. I'm terrible at it. Fun anecdote, Brian Rack, the creator of Satori Reader, actually writes it perfectly. I was super surprised when I watched him casually write it in person once during a video we were shooting together. Historically, this was a pictograph of a kneeling woman with her arms folded in front of her. Stern look on her face. Okay, I made up the stern look part, but honestly, I don't see the kneeling part in any of these. This one looks more like a Gundam pose or something. Our story for woman is ku, no, and ichi, the fluorescent worm, stack up and dress as a woman strutting down the runway. Don't forget to add your own stories for these kanji in the comments, by the way. Maybe you'll have something better for this one that others can also use. This part is a non-official radical that used to be a kanji, meaning left hand. It's usually used as a hanging over enclosure now. It does not have an official radical, but it's made up of a one and no part. The stroke order for this part sometimes depends on the kanji that it shows up in, or what part it's hung over top of. We're going to go with drawing the one first, followed by the no part, which is, I believe, how the original kanji was written. In some kanji, this will be written no first though, so keep that in mind. Historically, this was a kanji. The end. For our story, we have no is holding a fluorescent worm in its left hand. This is actually a kanji, but it's not taught until JLPT N1 and Kanken level 3, so we're bringing it up here just as a radical for the next kanji. I chose the meaning of again, because in modern Japanese, where I seem to see it the most is in the word again. But I do feel like I missed an opportunity with this one because officially, when used as a radical, it has the meaning of to carry, grab, or take, or right hand, which makes it a perfect companion to our last part and would be super useful in the story for the next kanji. I did not choose this though, and I'm regretting it a little now. But it's already in the Anki deck on ToKiniAndy.com, so I'm just letting you know that right hand is also a perfectly reasonable meaning you could use for this kanji and your own stories. It is a radical, but also a kanji, so its official radical is itself. Remember, we won't be learning any words for this at this level, so we're not really going to worry about this right now. We could break this down quite easily into a fu part and backwards no, though. There are two strokes in exactly that order. The fu part is written exactly like a katakana fu, and then the backwards no cuts through it, starting from just below the start of the fu part. Another reason that I sort of regret not choosing right arm or right hand for the meaning of this kanji is that historically it was a pictograph of just that, a right hand. Of an alien, of course. Anyway, for our story, fu and no attempt to make this kanji many times. The director keeps screaming, "Again! Again!" as they mess it up, finally creating this kanji. Maybe as an added bonus, you can imagine the director holding a clapperboard in his right hand. The idea behind this story is that they're sort of playing charades and trying to create this kanji with their bodies. You get the idea. Looking at this kanji and knowing that it means friend, you may start to see even more why I think right hand is another great meaning for our last part. Again, Andy? You're really going to bring this up again? A combination of left hand and right hand could be friends holding hands or a million other stories. But anyway, the official radical of friend is again, or right hand. The parts are left hand and again. There are 4 strokes in friend. We start with the 1 in left hand and follow it with a no. It encloses or hangs over again beneath it. We draw that in exactly the order you'd expect. Fu followed by the backwards no. Interestingly, this kanji used to be 2 right hands instead of a left and right hand. Or maybe they just really didn't like left hands back then. Would explain why kanji is so difficult to write in the correct stroke order for left-handed people without putting tons of holes in the paper. Anyway, the story for friend is the director uses his left-hand man, aka friend no, to light up the scene again and again with his fluorescent worm. He's like holding the fluorescent worm up over the scene again and again. Hook us up with a story for left-hand and right-hand part names down in the comments. Which brings us to the Lesson 9 quiz. In this section of the video, I'll show you a flashcard with the English meaning for a kanji. Pause the video when we show each card and try to remember how to write that kanji. Next, write it on your hand with your finger or on a piece of paper. Then press play and see if you were right. The best way to remember kanji you just learned is to search your memory for the story we taught you, or the one you made based on the English word on the flashcard. Our first card is woman. Next is man. Just a few more. Here's strength. And then there's friend. Finally, we have field. Let us know how many you got right down in the comments. You can learn the next 5 kanji by clicking here, if the video is already out. If you don't want to wait, you can continue learning with our Level 1 Kanji Flashcard deck for Anki on ToKiniAndy.com. We're also releasing kanji series videos early for all the members there, so check it out if you want a head start.